Welcome. I'm Lindsay from Mystic Haven Acres, and this is my podcast, Living for Real. Thanks for joining me. I'm here to share my experiences as someone who never quite fit in and shed some light on life's simple and not so simple things. A single mama, born and raised in the GTA, now living a peaceful, rural, homesteading life with my kids and critters, and I can't wait to share with you some of the magic I have learned along the way. I pride myself in real living, real food, real conversations, and real experiences. So leave your preconceived notions at the door and buckle up. This free spirit is about to take you for an interesting ride. I am so excited to dive into today's episode. Though I felt the introduction and background episodes were important, I'm really looking forward to discussing the things that I came here to discuss. I mentioned in an earlier episode that I would be talking about my trips to Montana. And I feel inspired to do that now after coming across a post on good old Facebook where another family had posted about their journey from city life to rural life. They took the leap. So you might be wondering, how does this tie into Montana? Well, on my first trip there in 2017, a couple of the guides had taken me fly fishing. It had been a dream of mine to fly fish in Montana. I mean, you see it in all the movies and it's just like, it's a thing. So it was on my list. And these wonderful guides gathered up the gear, took me out in this little rowboat, gave me a quick fly fishing lesson, and I actually landed a pretty little trout of some sort and was over the moon about it. Anyway, not the point of this story. Though I could honestly talk about my trips to Montana and Wyoming for hours on end. And I'm sure that I will, bit by bit. But right now, we're talking about leaps. And that day was monumental for me. As we were walking back to the ranch house for supper after fishing, we crossed a bridge. Beneath the bridge was a creek, which was glacier fed from the surrounding mountains. And even though it was the end of a long, hot summer, the water was cold. One guide who I had had some really interesting and inspiring conversations with over the period of that week suggested to me that I needed to jump, that it would be life-changing. The water was really low. Again, it was the end of August, and they hadn't had rain that year for over a month. The water was crystal clear, and I could see all the rocks on the bottom of the creek. So it was nerve-wracking for me, to say the least. So this guide, he jumped in first to show me that it was safe. Mind you, he had done it a million times, and of course he made it look really easy. So I stood there on the edge of the bridge for a long while, absolutely terrified to take the leap. It was a combination of the fear of the unknown, a fear of the cold water, and I mean cold water, and also my fear of heights. And there this poor guy stood in the frigid water at the bottom, waiting for me to jump, assuring me that I could do it. There I was, sitting on the edge of the bridge, fully clothed in jeans of all things, feeling like if I could make myself that much lower, it wouldn't be quite as bad, whilst feeling absolutely terrible for this poor guy freezing in the water below. Not to mention, the dinner bell was about to ring at any moment, and we really couldn't be late. So I mustered up the courage, and I jumped. Okay. Truth be told, I vaguely remember sliding off the bridge slowly, lowering myself down as much as I possibly could, trying to close the gap between my feet and the water. But I did it. And holy man, what a freaking rush. Despite the water being probably the coldest water I have ever immersed myself into, taking that leap was indeed life-changing. And what I mean by that is taking that leap, despite my fears, has made all the leaps that I have made since that much easier. I experienced such an invigorating feeling probably in part due to the cold water, but also that self-pride of overcoming a huge fear that had, for a short time, paralyzed me. I did it, and I survived, and I felt like I could take on the world. Big leaps are scary, especially the ones that can change your whole life. And often the fear paralyzes us, or at the very least, slows our progress right down. But sometimes it's like ripping off a Band-Aid. The longer you think about it, the worse it seems. The more reasons you come up with to not do it. I mean, think about a child with a sliver. The sliver is hurting them. They feel discomfort. But as soon as you break out the rubbing alcohol and the tweezers to remove it, they often lose their mind. And no matter how much you tell them, it will be little to no pain, and the discomfort of the splinter will be gone. They don't believe you. I have seen kids get so worked up that they can't even hear you anymore. No amount of calm reasoning and reassurance works at all. They get so up in their own heads thinking about the unknown that it takes several moments just to get them to come back to the room and the current situation and calm down. And many of us do this with the decisions in our lives. It keeps us stuck in that place of fear and in the place of what ifs. Sometimes it keeps us stuck there for years, and let's face it, we're wasting precious time. If you're a parent or a caregiver, or you will be in the future, I can't stress this next bit enough. As we are in this time of helicopter parents, and yes, I am guilty of falling into this role too, probably more often than I would like. But we need to remember that it's so important for kids to take risks, to learn how to make calculated risks, and to learn how to reasonably assess situations so they can learn how to trust themselves and how to learn from their mistakes. So back to my bridge leap. How did that help me in the grand scheme of things? Well, I mentioned before that I am divorced, and when I got divorced, I lost a huge amount of hope that I would ever be able to live the life I dreamed of, because honestly, I believed it wasn't something I could do on my own. But after Montana, those dreams sparked again, and hope began to grow. It was just over 3 years ago now that I decided to sell my house, quit my job, and move far away from everything that I knew. And I honestly believe that thanks to that leap off that bridge that day, I was able to do it. Taking the leap into this adventure was that much easier because of that bridge jump. All that said, it didn't happen overnight. A move like that does take time and thought and planning, and it did. It took me just shy of 2 years, actually. So, if you've been standing on the edge of something for a while, hesitating, have some compassion for yourself. These things can take time. The important thing is to quiet the doubt in your mind and to take small actions, to keep moving the needle forward, and to get really clear on what it is that you want. And if you're really stuck and you just can't seem to do that, take a small leap in another area of your life. Doesn't matter where. Build your self-trust. One tiny leap and one tiny win at a time. Now, back to the Facebook post that sparked the thoughts for this episode. I went through the comments, all of them, because part of what I want to do with my life now is help other people take big leaps like this, and with confidence. I want to help people live out their dreams. And so it was important for me to see where people were at and what they were struggling with. So what came up? Well, a common response was, how do you leave your family? And this is something I can absolutely relate to. I mean, for years, I felt like I was not in the right place, like I should be somewhere else, doing something else. I wasn't exactly sure what, but the feeling was there. And I also felt this want or need to stay relatively close to my family. At the time, my grandparents were aging, and I had always been very close with them. And I suspected they didn't have many years left, so I didn't want to leave. And I think a lot of people struggle with this. We all have to do what feels right in our own hearts. But what we really need to look at is, what are we doing because we want to do it versus what are we doing out of obligation or even sometimes guilt or shame. I have mentioned before that so much of what we do in our lives revolves around what other people think we should do, what society tells us or implies that we should do. And when we steer away from that, we can sometimes feel shame. We feel the shame of being selfish. And I might get some flack for this, probably some disapproval or judgment, but I believe this type of thinking needs to stop. We have one life. We have a finite number of years, moments, whatever, on this planet. So why do we let ourselves get so caught up in being selfless and living for everyone else? We try to keep people in our lives happy while we put our own happiness aside. And why are we shamed for wanting to do things that make us happy? Should we not be happy for others that are happy? Would the world not be a better place if more people were happy? If more people were fulfilled? And as much as I hate using the trendy term, but if more people were living in alignment. I'm sure we've all heard that you can't pour from an empty cup. And it's true. So while it's great that we want others to be happy and we don't want to contribute to their unhappiness, we can't keep taking blow after blow just to keep those around us happy at the expense of our own happiness. We are not responsible how others react to our choices. Most people don't do things for the purpose of hurting others. Most of us just want to be happy, and we want others to be happy too. This all said, I lost my last remaining grandparent last week, my Nana, and it definitely stung a little that I hadn't seen her in a few years. However, the reality was that we didn't visit very often to begin with, though we always did keep in touch. And my Nana had traveled a great many places in her lifetime. She had seen so many things and experienced so much. And I know she wouldn't have wanted me to stay someplace that I didn't want to be, just to be closer to her. Even though she may not have agreed with or understood my choices, I trust that she understood my need to experience. We so often wait for the right time, when the truth is, there is no right time. And some of us wait so long we end up laying on our deathbeds regretting all the things we didn't do. If my grandmother's taught me anything, it was to live life to the fullest and enjoy as many adventures as possible, and to also surround yourself with good people. Have you ever asked a dying person what the regrets are? Rarely do they regret the things that they have done. It is so much more common to hear people talk about the regrets they have about the things they didn't do or the things they wish they had done. Not every opportunity comes at a convenient time. But if that opportunity is really important to you, I encourage you to take it And yeah, it may require some juggling. It may even require some sacrifice. But the reality is, you may not get the opportunity again. As I said earlier, we have to do what feels right in our own hearts. We have the answers. So many of us have lost trust in the process and lost trust in ourselves. But we can build these trusts back. It usually takes time and effort, but you can build them back. We need to get reacquainted with ourselves because our well-being depends on it. And in my opinion, it's not selfish. Because when you feel good, when you're happy, those positive feelings spread to others. Just as if you are miserable and resentful, those negative feelings spread to others too. So does it still seem selfish to want to be happy so that you are capable of spreading joy and love and other good things? What I want to leave you with today is take the leap. And if you have children in your life, let them see you take your leaps and encourage them to take leaps of their own. Remember, if you absolutely aren't ready to take the big one, that's okay. But take a small one. Build that confidence, that leaping muscle, if you will. Try to do things, even tiny things, that scare you as much as you can. Because with each small leap and each small win, the world becomes less and less frightening. And the most amazing opportunities will be presented to you. So take a leap, and I will see you next time. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for listening in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review and share with your friends and family. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss upcoming episodes. And thanks again. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.